Well there, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. I'm going to give you guys, right now, I'm giving you two chances to figure out who I am. I'm either one or two chances. Go right ahead. Here's your first chance. No, you're wrong. I'm MrWarrenHayes. I said I give you two chances, but I only gave you one. It's a swerve, baby. Welcome to the MrWarrenHayes Show, of course. Of course, I am thrilled to have you all here on January 9, 2020. It is already the second edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show this year. How do you feel? I feel great. Thank you all for joining me live, because yes, live. I record this live every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for all of you here to enjoy, for all of you to have a good time. And we have another stacked house here tonight because the live chat is here. It is fine and dandy and exciting. We got a whole bunch of people here this evening. Of course, as per usual, Tim Traver is here. Robert Larry as well. Dave, good guy Dave is here. John, how you doing? Good to see you. Blaine is here as well. The world's most handsome mod. Patrick Mason, you made it, Patrick. Good to see you. Carlos is here as well. Thomas Goris. Thomas, welcome. We also have, who else do we have? We have J.S. Brown is here as well. Good to see you. Nick Wolf as well. DJ Storms. We have a whole bunch of, and you know what, folks? We also have Ben, a friend of the show, Power Pal, mod extraordinaire, Ben, who's here with us, folks. And Ben is celebrating his 38th year on Earth today. Yes, it is Ben's birthday. Everyone, press B for birthday in the chat. Let's take a moment to wish Benoit happy birthday. Benoit's a great guy, fantastic dude, a great mod as well. I appreciate him a great deal. Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a friend and a confidant, Ben. Thank you. Thank you very, very much for everyone for being here. So, but maybe and if you're watching this here live right now, you know what would be fantastic? You know what would be great? You know what really would be great is if you gave this video right here, right now, a thumbs up! That would be great. It's for Benoit's birthday. Give the video a thumbs up for Ben's birthday. It's fantastic. No, but that'll help YouTube, right? And even if you're not watching live, if you're watching this on your own accord, on your own time, on your own dime, that's fantastic as well. You can still give it a thumbs up. And maybe you're not even watching this. Maybe you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, because the MrWarrenHayes Show is available on all podcast platforms as well. Well, then give it a review, a star review, a like, a heart, a subscription, a follow, whatever it is you have to do. Just do it. Just do it. That stuff also helps out a great deal as well. So thank you in advance for your help. I want to say hello to you what mate, who joined us in the chat as well. Thank you. Here, and Aaron's Jays fan just popped his wonderful nose in here. Don't forget, folks, tomorrow evening I'm going to be over on Sean Ross Sapp's. That's a mouthful when you think about it, right? SRS, Sean Ross Sapp, his YouTube channel. I'm going to be joining him after SmackDown for the post-SmackDown recap that he and I do for Fightful, except it's still on youtube.com/SRS Wrestling, because they haven't given us, YouTube hasn't given Fightful back its channel yet. So in the meantime, that's what we're going to do. Then this weekend, on Sunday, I'll be doing a little something extra this Sunday, since we're at the cusp of 2020 and we like to think about what's to come, and we're in resolutions mode where everyone is very optimistic about the year, about the upcoming year, unless you're you're in the White House of the United States. Everyone is really optimistic in regards to 2020. And I want to start that off right. I'm going to be hosting a special show called Wrestling's Hopes and Wishes 2020, and I'll be having a panel of illustrious guests, friends as well, here to discuss, to give our hopes and wishes for WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact, NWA, and others as well. And we're going to be doing that this Sunday. I'll be joined by, I didn't even tell you who I'm going to be joined by. I'm going to be joined by JPQ of the No Particular Angle podcast. I'll be joined by Kristen Ashley of belltobells.com. And I'll be joined by Joe Anthony Myrick of the Daily DDT / Daily DDT podcast. Joe Anthony is going to be joining us as well, and that's going to be cool. And we might have some surprise appearances. Surprise appearances. Yes, surprise appearances. We're going to be doing that this Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be doing it live right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. So the video is already, the live event is already created on the channel. So if you want to go hit a reminder to make sure that you don't forget, it's right there. Also, and I was talking about Kristen Ashley of Bell to Bells. Well, go visit belltobells.com. That's BELLTOBELLES for all your number one tip-top women's wrestling coverage that you can get out there on the internet. Or you can also follow Bell to Bells on Twitter at Bell to Bells. Very, very simple like that. And one last thing before we really get into the crux of stuff. The post stream, because that's what I do here. Don't forget, after this show here, I head on over to patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes and I do a post stream for patrons only. Tonight I'm going to be talking about, there's a lot of wrestling. It turns out there's a lot of wrestling this weekend. Well, there's always a lot of wrestling, but there's 3 shows that are really captivating our attention this weekend. We have Impact Hard to Kill, we have NXT TakeOver Blackpool 2, and we have Pro Wrestling Eve's Wrestle Queendom, which is their big event, the big event of their calendar year. And I'm gonna give some predictions on all of those 3 shows. Plus, I'm going to talk about the sudden uptick in use of what's the word I'm looking for? Legends. Old timers in wrestling promotions these days. And I have a couple of thoughts on that. So if you want to join me after, I'm going to do something special tonight. I'm going to do something very, very special tonight. If you want to come join me on the post stream, there's 2 ways you can do it. Of course, you can become a patron of the Mr. Warren Hayes. So you go to patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes, and it's on the PayPal, the Power Pal tier that you can join in, that you can jump in to get all the extra goodies. So at the Power Pal tier, you jump in, and then you can come into the stream tonight and for the rest of the month as well. But if you just want to come take a look, if you just want to come in and join the conversation tonight, for tonight only, if you drop a super chat here tonight on, you're joining us live, if you drop us a super chat, send me either on Twitter a DM with a screen cap with a screen cap of your super chat, or the receipt that YouTube sends you after. You can send me a screen cap of that. Either on Twitter, you send me a DM, or email it to me at mrwarrenhayes.contact@gmail.com. You can do that as well. And you can also add a message in your super chat, and I will read it online. And anyone basically who sends me a super chat tonight, I will get you into the post stream so that we can talk about predictions for wrestling this weekend and all sorts of cool stuff. And it's a very different beat than what I do here. Much more cool. I'm much more relaxed. I don't have a hat. Guys, gals, I don't wear a hat. So there you go. So that's what we're going to do. So you can either become a patron, take full advantage of that, or if you just have a couple of bucks that you can drop it in a super chat, and that will be fantastic. See, like Aaron's Jay's fan. Oh, he had a message, but he retracted it. I didn't get a chance to see it, Aaron. But Aaron will be able to join us then later on this evening. Just make sure you send me a screen capture or the receipt screen capture of your receipt or whatever. You can handle it. You can do this. You're a smart guy. Hey, we got Joe Cook, who's in the chat here as well. How you doing, Joe? Let's see. I think I saw more people jumping in, if I'm not mistaken. We have Joe Cook, who's here, and John as well. Look, the more the merrier is always the cliche that we like to use, but it's also very, very true, isn't it? I think it's also very true. Where are we here? I'm trying to... What's going on? Okay, there we go. Okay, we're all set. Everything's under control. Joys of doing live stuff here. Let's just go right to it with the weekly wrestling inspection. All right, now I think we're gonna have a rather substantial, long edition of the weekly wrestling inspection this week, because there's still there's stuff that I want to talk about. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about, and you know what I mostly want to talk about? I want to talk a lot about New Japan Pro Wrestling, because they had a weekend. Oh boy, did they have a weekend. It's crazy. So you guys know me well enough, and if you join me on my on the Wrestle Kingdom post streams I did on night 1 and night 2, you know how much I enjoyed the shows this weekend. I mean, everything that New Japan put on this weekend was just golden. Since we're talking about New Japan, Aaron J's fan left a super chat. Thank you, Aaron J's fan. He says, WWE wants Jay White. He better watch his back. Bullet Club tends to betray their leaders when leaving to WWE. Well, that's always been the case. The leader always gets a departure in blood, except for Kenny Omega, right? Kenny got off pretty scot-free. He didn't get the traditional Bullet Club takedown. That's kind of a shame in a certain way, but yeah. There is a precedent to that, so we'll have to keep an eye out. But you know what, guys, I know there's some reports coming around saying no, WWE is interested in Jay White. Well, of course they're interested in Jay White. Of course, there's not a promotion operating out there who wouldn't be like, I wonder if we would like to have Jay White within our organization. Of course who wouldn't want Jay White in their company? The question is, will it ever happen? That's a whole other story, but it's a kind of a silly report saying WWE is interested in Jay White. Of course they are. They're interested in everybody these days. That's not much of a shock. Anyway, I'm going to start talking about Wrestle Kingdom good and proper here. We're going to start talking about that good and proper here. Look, I'm not going to do a big recap like I did this weekend. If you want to get my full thoughts, and especially since I was joined by Kelsey on night 1 and JPQ from No Particular Angle on night 2, you go check those out. But I'm going to tell you, Tetsuya Naito versus Kazuchika Okada on night 2. By God, that was good. It was such good stuff. Guys in the chat, guys and gals in the chat, let me know if you watched New Japan Pro Wrestling this weekend, and including New Year's Dash. Let me know, what was your favorite match? Let's talk about what your favorite match or matches were, because there's so much. But Naito and Okada are clearly setting the bar, per usual. Like, New Japan, Wrestle Kingdom is always the first event of the calendar year, and it's always the same thing. They always set the bar very, very high as far as match of the year candidates go. And we're right up there with Naito and Okada. Jesus, that was good stuff. It was such good stuff. And Naito with his 2 belts at the end, and Kenta with the run-in to come and ruin and spoil the moment. But you couldn't have had it. You couldn't have had it a much in It couldn't have been a more Naito type of finish, right? To just be completely ruined by someone else. Just have it completely ruined. That's the Naito way. That's what you do with Naito. You think he's celebrating, you give something for the fans, but no, something happens and he's eating dirt again. So I thought the ending was good. And I know a lot of longtime New Japan fans didn't quite care for that. They didn't think it was all that interesting. I know there's a lot of people who don't like the interference and all these kinds of shenanigans. They like the purity of New Japan. And I respect that. I'm definitely not going to sit here and say you're wrong. As for myself, it didn't bother me. I thought it added to the moment. And by God, if that didn't create a monster heel in Kenta at that moment there, well, I don't know. I don't know what it did. Mr. Fantastic and Jason PS3, how are you both doing? Welcome to the chat. Hiromu Takahashi versus Will Ospreay was everything I hoped it could be. And I had chills with Hiromu's gear and him coming back to the ring. That was, I know it wasn't officially his first match, but it was his first singles match. And I was so glad to see him back. I was so excited to see him back, and everything worked wonderfully. What a fantastic match. Hiromu regaining the title that he never lost. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. Never really lost it. Got it back. And I'm going to talk about it again. That spot, that sequence of events when Ospreay, Hiromu's on the outside. Ospreay goes for the Suzuki special. It misses. Hiromu gets him on the floor and he German suplexes him, but Ospreay German suplexes him, but Hiromu suplexes Ospreay. He lands on his feet. Then Ospreay goes after Hiromu, who monkey flips him back into the ring, and without missing a beat, without even pausing, Ospreay hits the ropes and then hits the Suzuki special. That was amazing. It was so good. Great match. I also loved White versus Naito as well. And, you know, I had predicted that Okada was going to walk out with both straps. But when I saw the match that White and Naito had on night one, it started to crack at my prediction. I was like, maybe this is what's going to happen. Because they took the time to build him. They took the time to build Naito as the babyface, as the underdog, setting up the knee thing for the problems with the knee for night two. Look, Jay White did everything that a top class baby heel should do, and that is create a baby face right then and there. Not that Naito really needed it, but it just added that little extra something to really put him over the top in that match. And then going into night one as well, it was the same type of energy. I loved that match so much for the story that was told. It was crazy. Loved Zack Sabre Jr. versus Sonata. That was fantastic stuff. Great grappling match. Like John said on our recap on night two, it was a wrestling exhibition match. I thought it was great. Jericho versus Tanahashi, I thought was a lot of fun. I mean, you have two of the greatest performers of all time in the ring. And the story that they put together was super entertaining, was a lot of fun. I really liked it. And then you had Jon Moxley winning both of his matches on night one and night two. Jericho winning. AEW stars were 3-0, right? At Wrestle Kingdom this weekend. And then Moxley, at the end of his match with Juice on night two, gets confronted by Minoru Suzuki. I would be lying to you, a bald-faced, stinky poo liar, if I didn't tell you that I marked out like a baby when that happened. That was That was the moment that made it for me this weekend. It was such good stuff. And it's exactly what the fans had been asking for ever since Moxley popped his nose into New Japan. We're like, my God, Moxley and Suzuki be so good. That was so good. You know, I'll tell you. And Nick Wolf sends a super chat. Thank you. Nick Wolf says Moxley leaves AEW for New Japan. Well, maybe not, but he's definitely at home there as well. He has two homes. He really does have two homes. The fans and the Japanese fans really love them. And Nick, by the way, send me a screen capture or your receipt of your super chat, and either through my Twitter DM or at MrWarrenHayes.contact@gmail.com, and I will get you in to the post stream after this. Thank you for the super chat. So this was really this was fantastic. And if Moxley's going, he has homes everywhere. I think maybe not in WWE. I'll tell you guys though, the only bummer that I had regarding New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom this weekend was the filler matches, especially on night one. Night one didn't quite feel as special to me because of the filler matches that they had. Now, I've watched New Japan before. I know how they construct their cards. There's 6-man and 8-man tags, and I know what they're for. And I understand what they do. When they go on their tours, you'll have multi-man tag team matches and these, or just straight up tag matches, and these set up the stories between future opponents, just like they did at New Year's Dash. I'm going to talk about Dash in a second too. I understand how it works. But when you're giving me filler matches to set up on night one, to set up matches on night two, or to further set them up, that I don't appreciate as much, because we're not on tour anymore. Now we're at the biggest night in New Japan wrestling. I don't want to see a match that's a multi-man match that sets up just to set up Goto versus Kenta the next night, or to add fuel to it, or Sonata versus Zack Sabre Jr. At this point, the setup is done. I want conflict resolution. I want my singles matches. We're not on the road to. We're not on the road to destruction or whatever. Right? We're at Wrestle Kingdom. And I understand that they want to give everyone the opportunity to get a big paycheck. I'm cool with that. Bring back the New Japan Rumble if need be. But there's four guys that you're like, why didn't they just get singles matches instead of being thrown into these nothing matches that only serve to set up matches the night previously, like Ishii, like I'm drawing a complete blank. Like Ishii and Shingo is another really good example of someone who should have maybe got a singles match. Evil was definitely established. Did some great stuff with him as a singles guy earlier this year. I mean, I don't understand. I really don't understand why this wasn't pushed further into developing more singles matches and then have these like the New Japan Rumble. I don't know. That was my only, but I mean, it didn't ruin my enjoyment of the weekend. The top matches delivered. It's just it takes a little bit away from the majestic aspect, I find, of Wrestle Kingdom, just a little bit. CM Phil, good to see you. Welcome to the chat. And as far as New Year's Dash go, well, New Year's Dash set up, created to establish the next few months here. And this was a good show. It was a good kickoff for the new year. I thought the Young Lions match to start off the evening was a lot of fun. I thought Shingo and Evil defeating Ishii and Goto was spectacularly good, and I am all here for Shingo versus Goto. And I'm glad Goto got the Neverweight title back. Like, I think it's his. I don't think there's a wrestler. I don't think there's any wrestler for whom that title is more identified with than he is at this point. And it's the, to use an overused term, it's the slobber knocker title, right? This is the title for guys who just ram into each other, who just like to punch things. You got Shingo and Goto. My God, that's going to be a good one. That's going to be great. We had Moxley, who ran in to take out Suzuki after his match, get a little comeuppance there. And of course, the big main event scene where you have Naito and Kenta, who are clearly going off onto a collision course. But Sanada and Jay White, I'm good with this. Let's get Sanada back on track. There, Sanada, a lot of people were disappointed. I was disappointed that he didn't win the Ref Pro title. But then again, if he's going into a feud with number one top heel in the world, Jay White, I am particularly okay with this. I'm wondering where they're going to go with the Kazuchika Okada moving forward, right? This is going to be some really, really interesting stuff. He hasn't been booked on the New Japan tour of the US that's happening in a couple of weeks. He's not on the tour. I don't think it's an indication of anything other than just take a break, bro, go rest your body a little bit, which is absolutely okay. I'm just curious as to what they're going to do with him moving on, and I hope they keep some kind of secrecy around it or keep it nebulous right into the G1, because then the G1, anything can happen at that point. And and Ibushi and Tanahashi versus Finjuice for the titles. Does that mean that Ibushi and Tanahashi are going to put Finjuice over? All right, enough gushing on New Japan, Warren. Are you on their payroll, Warren? Are you on the payroll of New Japan Pro Wrestling? Anyway, this was all fantastic stuff, and as usual, it sets the stage really, really well for a great year. Let's start moving on to WWE. Let's talk about last week's SmackDown, and it's going to be no, not hot trash. It's warm soda. The whole episode of SmackDown, it was just so bland. It was bland. You know what I mean? Hopefully you guys got a chance to watch it, but and it's weird because there were 4 returns. Well, 3 returns. Sorry, 4 people, 3 returns that were announced that happened that night. You had Sheamus, who made a return. You had John Morrison, who made a return, and the Usos that made a return. And despite all of that, I thought it was an extremely flat show. The women's match to start off, I thought was good. Gable versus Wilder was fine, but not long enough. They did get some great offense in, but I thought it wasn't it. Braun versus Cesaro was a setup for a storyline. And Bryan and Roman versus Corbin and Dolph was just, it was just dull as bricks. And everyone felt unmotivated. I thought all the promos stank. I didn't think anything was good. As far as the promo work went, overall, it wasn't the worst show, and it had enough stuff to be like, oh, this is interesting, but the whole mood of it, there was just no spark, no energy to it. And I'll tell you this much, I am ready for a good time. Every week, WWE SmackDown asks me, am I ready for a good time? Well, I am. So why am I not having a good time, WWE? Maybe that's the question you should be asking yourself, asking in the song. Instead of asking me if I'm ready for a good time, you should be asking, am I ready to give you a good time? I will give out some cool beans here though, to the Miz's heel turn that's happening. I dig it. I like it. I like how it was done in his match against Kofi Kingston, which was, again, very uninspired and dull. But Kofi beats Miz with a roll-up, and Miz then attacks Kofi after. And the audience were booing the hell out of him when he was walking up the ramp. And he just took control of the situation and started shouting back. You know, how dare you people? How dare you? He was off the mic, right? But no, people were chanting, "You suck" at him. And he was like, "After everything I've done for you, how dare you?" And I thought that was cool. And I was talking about this with Sean on the SmackDown post show last Friday. And we were wondering if this was scripted or not. And, you know, to me, I don't think you can script. Well, not to me. You cannot script an audience reaction. So you sort of hope that they'll give you the reaction you need. Miz has been around in the business more than enough, and he's been a quality heel more than enough to know when to milk a crowd reaction, when to wing it. I'm pretty sure he went off script, that he improvised a little bit, and it made the moment all the more satisfying. I thought it was really good. And then backstage, they try to get an interview with Miz, knock on his locker room door, but it's not Miz that shows up. It's John Morrison. A very bland return, but I like this. I like the fact that they're going back to the history between Miz and John Morrison. After all, they're former tag team partners. They're two-time WWE tag team champions. They even had a web show for a while, The Dirt Sheet. Remember that? They were also former rivals as well, because there's no friendship in wrestling that lasts forever except for the New Day. They fought for the WWE Championship. They competed against DX at Raw 800. They were opposing team captains at Survivor Series 2009. I mean, there's a laundry list of stuff that exists between these two that made it really, really interesting. Kristen Ashley, welcome to the chat. And Conrad is here as well. How you doing, Conrad? So they're leaning into the history here, and to be honest, it's the best possible outcome for both these guys. It's really the best idea to recreate this tag team. Miz, I think it'll solidify a heel turn for him. Plus, it'll give him something really interesting to do, to be in a tag team other than try and worm his way back into a singles title when they don't even know what to do with the singles people they have right now. I think this is smart. And John Morrison, look, I'm really happy that there are people out there that are excited that John Morrison is returning to WWE. I really am. Because to me, it does nothing for me. Not that I don't like the guy. It's just completely indifferent whether he's in WWE or not, to me. So I'm glad some people are excited about it. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. But I think in the context, again, it makes sense for them to go down this road. Because it'll give, again, something for Morrison to sink his teeth in straight off the bat, paired up with Miz that people already know. It's a win-win scenario here, in my opinion. And we'll see what happens after that. Some more cool beans. The Otis segment. I just want to point out, who called it last week? Who called it last week that Otis needed to go back to his mother's, and his mother had to tell him, "Oh, Otis, did you see what that nasty Mandy Rose did? Did you see what that nasty Dolph Ziggler did? He stepped on my fruitcake." And Otis is like, "What do you mean? It wasn't Mandy?" No, it was Dolph Ziggler. But so I'm glad that they straightened that out, and I'm the guy who called it. Me. Does that mean that WWE Creative listens to my show? Yes, that's it. Confirmed. That's exactly what it means. There's people on the committee, on staff, who listen to my show and pick up some great ideas. I think that goes without saying. I like that it was set up this way, that Otis was still pissed at Mandy because sure, she didn't step on the cake, but she sure as hell didn't do anything to keep Dolph from stepping on the cake. And I like that. He's a little sore. I really like that Tucker Knight came in and sort of like, hey, told her to back off. It's like, buddy, we have a match. And he sort of gave her the 1,000-yard stare. I liked it. His buddy looking out for him. Mandy caught in a precarious situation where she's like, and Otis is not stupid in this. Otis doesn't come off as a big goof. He's like, he has feelings, and his feelings were hurt. And he has it's a legitimate gripe he can hold against Mandy. They're still doing it right. If you're going to do relationship angles in wrestling, you got to do them like this. This works. It's really, really good. Let's move on to some hot trash then, and we're going to head on to Monday. Yes, Monday night. We're going to move on to Monday night, and we're going to talk about Brock Lesnar entering the Rumble at number 1. And by the way, just as a quick reminder, if you leave me a super chat here this evening and you send me a screen cap of your super chat or the receipt that you got, either on Twitter or at my email at MrWarrenHayes.contact@gmail.com, I will get you in on the patron-only post stream this evening. So don't forget. I'd like to forget Brock going into the Royal Rumble, but I can't because that's something that's going to happen. And I'm going to just set this off right off the... I don't mind Brock Lesnar being in the Royal Rumble. That's not my issue. And there... Paul Heyman establishing the fact saying that there's no man on Raw, SmackDown, or NXT who can stand up to Brock. Well, I mean, that's WWE's fault, right? They're not, My problem with this is that it goes back to them taking the title off of Kofi Kingston in a 6-second squash. I still don't understand what this has done for the WWE Championship. It's done nothing for it. Nothing. Brock Lesnar has not been involved in a feud that has any significance to the belt. The whole Cain Velasquez thing for the Saudi Arabia show could have all been done without the title. We didn't need the title. And boy, oh boy, did we need Cain Velasquez, right? What a great contribution he's done to WWE ever since debuting back last fall, right? Holy cannoli. Really glad he's around. But he's not ready. He's back off training. Oh, and they put him on TV anyway, right? Gave him a WWE title opportunity, right? The title is so, it wasn't even defended at Survivor Series. Brock didn't even put it up. Or did he? I don't think so. But the idea here is that nothing of value has happened for the title since Brock has had it. And you can have the same argument with the Universal title as well. I'm not putting the entire blame on Brock here or the WWE Championship. Both major titles on both shows have been insignificant in regards to the stories that they're telling about them. It's all stuff that has nothing to do with the title. And what bothers me most is that Royal Rumble is legitimately, I really, really do believe this. I think it's the second most anticipated WWE show of the year. I think this is a show that universally people get more excited about. I'm pretty sure people get a little more hype for Royal Rumble than they do for WrestleMania. I really do. It's a fan favorite show. It's one of their biggest shows of the year, if not the second biggest. And the main title is not even being defended. I think it's stupid. So I still don't understand why they took the title off of Kofi. I mean, and it's a complete and utter definition of hotshot booking. They have no plan. Because if this is what they were supposed to do with it, or if this is what they were supposed to do with Brock, they didn't need the title on him. Brock Lesnar, and I said this when he won Money in the Bank, Brock Lesnar should have he should have held on to the Money in the Bank suitcase, briefcase, or maybe it is a suitcase. Maybe, you put a couple of pairs of socks in there, toothbrush, some pomade. You got yourself a suitcase, a small carry-on size. Should have carried the Money in the Bank briefcase all the way into the new year easily. He would have continued his part-time schedule, which would have worked fine, because you don't want to see the Money in the Bank guy all the time. You want to see him pop up at very opportune moments. And then you'd have the specter not only of a cash-in, but of a Brock Lesnar cash-in, which just boops it up a little. Keep it into the new year. That would have been fantastic, having that looming all the time, and no one would have been pissy. But here we are, and we're complaining. And again, I'm not complaining about Brock. Brock is fine. I don't mind Brock. It's what they're doing with the title that bothers me. I'm going to give some quick cool beans as well to Becky Lynch. I like what they're doing with the Becky Lynch story recently. I'm giving her an angle where she has something to prove. They're really leaning hard into it, and I like it. Wait, I should put there we go. I really, really like what they're doing with it. Like, they're super leaning into it. It makes a lot of sense to me that they do it, and I hope it continues that way, and right into the Asuka thing, because she does have something to prove, and it's something that's just rooted in reality and proper storytelling. It's not something completely out there that they're fabricating. She has never lost against Asuka, so why not just go ahead and do it? I think it's great. And I'm going to give some warm soda right here just to finish off the Raw stuff with, Big Show being the third man. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I'm glad Big Show is healthy. If he wants to come in and wrestle a little bit as well, I can't be mad about that. But sheesh, it was a little underwhelming, wasn't it? As far as a surprise third person goes, it's not just me, right? I mean, look. We all got a little excited hanging out on Twitter. We all got a little. We all, started feeling in like, ooh, what if it's Aleister Black? Ooh, what if they're calling up Keith Lee? Ooh. We did the Twitter thing where we work ourselves into a shoot. I mean, that's the important thing, honestly. Big Show healthy, still able to compete. I think that's fantastic. I really and honestly do. But as far as a surprise participant in a tag team match goes, that was a little lame. That was a little lame. So yeah. I will give some cool beans, though. I got too much stuff here. Turn all that off. There we go. Some cool beans. There we go. To Thunder Rosa versus ODB this week on NWA Power. I don't remember enjoying ODB all that much. I'm not the guy who's most familiar with her career, but I know that she wasn't one of my favorites. But and when she came back to NWA, I was like, wow, really? This big return. I don't know how much gas she has left. I thought she did good in the singles, the tag team match at Into the Fire. everything she did worked off of her strengths. But against Thunder Rosa, I thought it was really good. It was really, really good. I think it's probably the best women's match I saw this week on the regular rotating on the regular path of shows that I watch. It was really good, nice and hard hitting. ODB looked real good. And Thunder Rosa, man, the more she wrestles, the more you see her, the more you realize just how special a talent she is. By God, she's good at what she does. She's so crisp and sharp and charismatic. She is easily going to become the woman that they can build that division around. And I know they put a lot of money in Allison Kay, and with reason. Allison Kay is a special talent as well. We don't talk enough about Allison Kay. God damn, she's good at what she does. And I really can't wait for Thunder Rosa versus Allison Kay on a one-on-one match. It's going to be great. But, I mean, there you go. I was surprised at the outcome. Not at the outcome. Thunder Rosa won, and it's I thought it was the right call. But ODB looked good. Pleasantly surprised. Good match. Y'all should check it out. You should take the time to watch it. It was a lot of good. I'm also, let's move over. By the way, R Hath, welcome to the chat. Gonna give some warm soda to the final angle on Power as well. So basically, they set up Nick Aldis. He has a stable of baddies now. They're called Strictly Business. He's full on heel now, and he's doing a fantastic job at being a heel. And he started feuding with Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express for some reason. And Aldis, at the end of the show, decided that he was going to he announced that he was going to have a 6-man tag match, Team Aldis versus Team Morton. The team captains could not be involved in the match for some reason. He says, I'm going to stay out of it. Ricky, you have to stay out of the match. My team is going to be my people here. And if and you can't be in this match, so you're going to have to pick other people. You're probably going to have Robert Gibson. Look, I'm messing this up a little bit, but basically, he says, my team is going to be the Wild Cards plus another member, one more guy. And who is it going to be? And Scott Steiner arrives. Scott Steiner. Now, I'm warm sodaing this because I really like the Strictly Business angle. I'm not convinced about a World Championship feud with Ricky Morton, but that could also be something they blow off on Power. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to tell you, I don't know about Scott Steiner. If you guys got a chance to see anything that he did, the stuff that he did in the King of Trios for Chikara last year, the dude is not... He already wasn't the most mobile of fellas. Gonna tell you, he's a lot less now. I don't quite see the value in bringing Scott Steiner in. And, I love you, NWA, and at some point, I really do love the NWA. But at some point, you're playing with fire, pun intended, but you're playing with fire, bringing in people who, when you put a live mic to their mouths, can become liabilities. The Jim Cornette thing, and then the Melina thing recently on Twitter. You guys want to shy away from controversy, but you're not exactly bringing in the most calm subjects either. I don't know. I'm giving it warm soda because I'm going to reserve judgment. We'll see how long the Scott Steiner thing goes. It could be just set up for Power next week, and that's that. We'll just see what happens. I might turn out in a couple of weeks and say, you know what, I was completely wrong to to have some apprehensions because this was great, or the opposite. I'm ready to give this a chance. So we'll just see what happens. And finally, I don't want to get into it too much because if you want to hear me talk about AEW last night, you can listen to the Wednesday Night Wars podcast that I did with Sean and Alex Pulowski over on youtube.com/SRS Wrestling. Did it for Fightful, of course, because it wasn't good. I really didn't think it was a good show. I thought Private Party they looked unmotivated, slow. They were a little sloppy. Weren't botchy, but they were sloppy. I didn't think they looked good. I thought Paige and Omega, when they worked together, were great, but I thought Private Party dragged the thing down, which is weird because they're usually really, really good. Of course, there's the Riho Statlander Nightmare Collective stuff, which is incomprehensible and stupid. But I also thought that the in-ring work throughout the evening just wasn't there. I didn't think Sammy Guevara and Christopher Daniels was all that good. It was fine. It was okay, but I didn't think it was anything to write home about. It was a good SmackDown, a good Raw match, but nothing to write home about. And I hated the finish with Pentagon coming out, doing a distraction, and then the Dark Order coming out to do more nonsense. Even the MJF segment wasn't great, and it's not even MJF's fault because MJF had probably the best moment of the night when he was leaning up on in the corner turnbuckle and tweeting on his phone, wondering when DDP was going to shut up, because I was exactly at that same mental place as he was. I thought it was great. I thought the post-show, the post-promo beatdown was dumb. I don't know why the Butcher, the Blade, the Beacon, the Bird all teamed up on DDP. Wardlow, I don't know what Wardlow does. Wardlow sort of just chest bumped DDP down. He looks like a dummy at this point. And the final angle with Moxley and Jericho was funny because of what it was, and Jericho getting smashed across the head with a bottle of bubbly. That was good, but they ran short, or they ran long. They ran short on time. So the ending segment was like easily 2 minutes too long, and you could tell they were like restarting the party 2 or 3 times because there was still too much time to kill. And that to me was an indication of the entire evening. Everything felt off. Everything felt really, really off. And again, don't want to get too much into it, but I want AEW to succeed, and I want them to do well. I want all wrestling promotions to do well, even Ring of Honor. I want wrestlers to have great places to work in, and I want a mainstream WWE alternative to be viable. And I don't like it when shows do poorly, like AEW did last night. But I'm convinced that they're going to dust themselves off and come back even stronger. But in the intent of fairness, well, I mean, you have to call it out when it happens, right? So other than that, I mean, everything was cool. Everything was cool, and it was an overall pretty good week for wrestling. I have no problems with what happened this week. I had a good time, and I'll move on. I'll move on from AEW. Trust me. Well, next week we won't even be talking about it anymore, or will we? Anyway, in the meantime, that'll wrap up our weekly wrestling inspection for today. Guys and gals, remember, if you want to come join me in the post show, the post stream, Warren is off the clock, immediately after we're done here, you can become a patron on Patreon at patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes to come and join us at the Power Pal level. Or if you leave us a super chat here tonight, I of course will read your message, but I will also get you into the stream tonight. So all you have to do is take a screen cap of your super chat and you DM it to me you DM it to me at MrWarrenHayes or you send it to me by email at MrWarrenHayes.contact@gmail.com. Or is it the other way around? Is it contact Mr. Warren Hayes? Look, DM it to me, okay? That'll be fantastic. Just do whatever. Or you can also send me your receipt, the YouTube receipt that you get. I'll get you in on the stream tonight. I want to talk with a bunch of people. The streams are very different there, and I want you to come. I want you to come try it out. There we go. Okay. Quickly, very, very quickly, just before we get into my interview with PW Musings, Mercedes Martinez is reportedly signed with WWE. Apparently, she'll be reporting to the Performance Center, and I could not be more happy for Mercedes to have been signed by a major promotion. 39 years old, she has 19 years of career in the business. She's wrestled over 530 matches throughout in every country across the world. This woman is traveled, experienced. She is looked up to by a lot of women's wrestlers and a lot of dudes too. She's such a solid performer. I have had chances to see her perform live and talk to her after. She is a wonderful person. She's as great a heel as she can do the babyface shtick. I'm really excited for her that she's been signed. After 19 years of hustling, working the indies, the travel, if she can get herself a good deal, and she probably did get herself a good deal, if she works for NXT, she can establish herself in Orlando a little bit and not have to travel all the time. Good for her. And I think she deserves to have a paycheck at this stage in her career. She really, really does. The only question that I have here, and this is not a knock, it's just like something that I'm very curious about. How did AEW not snap her up? That's the only thing. I really, really think that, I still believe that she would have been a crucial element to the AEW locker room. And you could tell that they were interested in her. They made her the wild card, right, at All Out this year in the women's casino battle royal. She was the last entrant, the wild card. That was a big deal. Apparently, she even broke up the fight between Sadie Gibbs and Bea Priestley backstage. She's a leader. She's a ring general. She would have been perfect for a women's division, which is struggling to find its feet. We won't know what the story is right up until Mercedes is maybe in her 80s and doesn't give a shit anymore about anything and is ready to shoot on everyone. You probably don't know what happened, but I can tell you this much. Whoever side she was working on, she was negotiating with both sides for sure. I'm sure AEW was trying to get her on, and WWE was trying to get her there. Maybe she did the AEW show just to give herself a little more leverage when negotiating with WWE. We don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. She probably negotiated very, very smartly. I don't think you last nearly 20 years in the business, in the wrestling business, if you don't have those skills finely honed. So good on her. I'm really curious as to what the story here is, because there is inevitably a story to tell. I can't wait to find out what it is, but like I said, we're probably not going to find out anything about it until much, much further. Maybe not even anything at all. You never know. I'm going to move on to an interview that I conducted earlier this week with Craig Leask from PW Musings, a website that provides in-depth wrestling statistics. I'm not going to talk about it too long because I do a nice little presentation in the interview. It's recorded it last Sunday after Wrestle Kingdom. I'm going to play it for you guys now. I hope you enjoy it. It's a fantastic interview, fantastic service. So here we go. My interview with Craig Leask of PW Musings. I recently came across Untitled Musings. It's dedicated to creating statistics and insights for wrestling matches, and it really goes above and beyond the usual stats that we're used to getting as wrestling fans, such as wins and losses and match duration. Instead, a deep dive into the structure of a wrestling match with fascinating detail. And this weekend, Pro Wrestling Musings provided stats for both nights at Wrestle Kingdom. And I am joined right now by Craig Leask, the man behind the operation, to talk about those stats and what Pro Wrestling Musings does in general. So, Craig, thanks for joining me today.
Hi there. Hi, Warren. Thanks very much for having me.
So, full disclosure, we're recording this on Sunday, on January 5th. Wrestle Kingdom Night 2 is done. It's in the books. So we will be talking a bit about that. But before we get into it, I want you to tell us, Craig, what drove you to create a website, this kind of service, I guess, that you do for the community dedicated to wrestling statistics?
Well, I'm obviously very, very into watching wrestling. But in my sort of every day-to-day life, I don't speak about it that much with people. It's a bit of a niche interest.
Sure.
So yeah, I was just quite interested. I like creating things as well. So I kind of started off just, like match ratings, like a lot of people might do. Then I started doing these sort of title history, kind of bar chart videos.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a big football fan, a big soccer fan.
Sure. Oh, you can use football. We're educated here at the MrWarrenHayes show.
Brilliant. I'll go football. Soccer seems silly. So yeah, I'm a big football fan, and when you're watching a football game, sometimes a team wins 1-0, but you go and look at the stats, and the other team's had 70% of the possession, and it tells you a bit more about it. And I just came to the conclusion that you could do that with wrestling. And that's kind of it's kind of just grown from there, really.
Because it's fascinating, because that's probably the most fascinating thing about it all is really it's these this attention to detail that you're able to pull out that, like you said, like in football and baseball and ice hockey, everyone has these really, really granular stats that we can look back and try to analyze and see what happened during a match, or an event, sporting event, whatever. And this is something that we've never really had as far as wrestling goes. So it's really, really interesting. And you go really deep and provide all sorts of fantastic data, some great data like offense heat maps and time control percentages. How do you go about collecting your data? What's your process like?
So when I'm watching, I have a kind of a shorthand that I've made up. It's you wouldn't, if it was just put in front of you, you'd have no idea what it was. It's sort of
kind of like Sanskrit, something, right?
Perhaps a little bit, yeah. Squiggles, lots. It doesn't look like a huge amount, and then it's got a couple of wrestlers' names at the top. So yeah, I do that as the match is going on, and it's kind of the page is it's done as a timeline, so that when I go back to it, I can do the graphs that you might have come across, the kind of the flow of offense, and breaking it into sort of 5-minute chunks to kind of analyze the match a wee bit. That's more or less what I would do when I was watching, and then afterwards, it's just a bit of quite simple maths and things into charts, and there's some timers involved, obviously, for
sure
match times and which wrestler was in control for which amount of time.
I mean, you say simple maths. I'm a lit graduate. There's no such thing as simple maths for me. Like I cannot but not be impressed by the work you do. So we talk about the matches, which is really, really interesting. You have fantastic. Like I said, the offense heat maps, I guess you'd call them the flow of offense. You refer to it as.
Yeah.
Then the time and control, which is great. But what's really, really interesting, I mean, not that the rest isn't interesting, but what's really, really interesting is then you go into detail per wrestler, like the number of strikes that they get, number of submissions, the pin attempts, number of finishers that they land. You do have a couple of, and I urge everyone to go check that out, and I'll probably have a couple of examples rolling on screen here as this is appearing here on the MrWarrenHayes show on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. But there are a couple of categories that maybe I'd like you to, just for
Yeah, sure.
clarity's sake, to explain a little more to us. Like, one of them that stood out to me really quickly is strike down as opposed to a strike. What do you define as a strike down?
Yeah, so when I that came as it kind of evolved. I didn't have that to begin with. It was either it was just a strike, or a grapple, and then I just kind of felt like something was missing. So that's kind of your super kick, drop kick,
Oh, okay.
moves that like it's essentially a big strike that knocks some. I could have called it knockdowns, I suppose, but I kind of ended up on the phrase strike down.
Okay. So, like, would you consider, just to make sure I understand, would you consider like a big lariat that takes a guy down? Would that
Yes.
be a strike down? Yeah.
Yeah, or like your New Japan kind of strike battle where they're hitting each other and eventually somebody just crumples to the ground. It's essentially just a strike that floors someone.
Okay, gotcha. What do you consider a foul? That's interesting. That's another one that I find interesting. What's a
Yeah,
foul?
that's quite good for kind of showing the wrestlers' personalities in the stats. So, for example, Jay White ends up getting a lot of fouls, and it's things that get a 5 count from the referee.
Right.
Um, Counting spitting as a foul, I don't seemed right.
Okay.
Throwing somebody into a guardrail seems like a foul as well. Just kind of things that are, that the referees would rather didn't happen.
So egregious elements, maybe some cheating along the lines as well.
Yeah. It's yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And what do you consider a reversal? That's also something that I'm interested in hearing you speak about.
The reversals. So it's essentially any time a wrestler attempts something and their opponent either evades or kind of straight up turns it against them, a punch that doesn't land, or a grapple that somebody backflips out of if it was going to be a suplex, for example. Just at any point where a wrestler escapes
Sure.
a move that their opponent was trying to pull off.
Okay, so when they escape from something, so that's where you get stuff like your strike down rate and reversal rate. You compare, like, if we're talking about reversals, then I guess
Yeah.
you'd compare the number of reversals to the number of submissions, I guess, or grapples.
Yeah, so for the reversal rate, I would add up the amount of moves that the opponent hit plus the amount of reversals, if
Okay.
that makes sense. And then it's the percentage. So it's essentially the percentage of the moves that the opponent. So you get the amount of moves that the opponent attempted by adding up the ones they hit plus their opponent's reversals,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. And then you division.
Sure, it makes tons of sense to me, and I'm just like, and it really does help provide a more a deeper understanding of what's going on in the match, because that's what makes what you do so interesting, is that it's not just match time. It's
Yes.
not just match time. It's really getting us to understand stuff a little better. It's like right here, I'm looking right now, and I'll have it up on screen. I'm looking at the Zack Sabre Jr. versus Sonata match, where
Yeah,
you have
that was
101 submissions.
Yeah, that was interesting. So that's that one. So that's 101 seconds in a submission.
Right. Oh,
So
seconds. Okay. Yes.
yeah. So the submission, I felt it didn't do it justice if you just counted the submissions,
Sure.
because some last 5 seconds, some last a couple minutes.
Right. I agree. So talking about this one again, the Zack Sabre Jr. Sonata one. I find it a little curious then that Zack Sabre Jr. has 0 grapples in this match, and maybe there's a part of the definition that I don't
Yeah,
quite understand then.
yeah. This is maybe the one thing that bugs me about the way that I do this. When when the wrestlers start the match, there's the kind of the feeling out process, the what do you call it, the Greco-Roman knuckle lock, the thing
Sure.
where they put their hands up.
Sure.
Um, and I've kind of not been counting that as a grapple. I've been counting grapples as things like suplexes or body slams.
Gotcha.
Whereas when they're kind of feeling out, I've been kind of using maybe that more as reversals as they've transitioned through the holds, and
Sure.
then little bits of submission time in as they've kind of started to do the kind of the grinding holds, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, that's interesting. So maybe something that you'll eventually course correct, maybe, or
I I I, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to avoid having too many categories as well. I don't
sure.
want to overcom. Well, I don't
Yeah.
want to.
I mean, you're
You
just
know.
one guy, right?
Well, yeah. This is the thing. Yeah.
Well, that's all really interesting. You know, of course, I hope everyone goes and takes the time to check it out. Let's talk a little bit about Wrestle Kingdom then.
Mm.
What statistics wise, what stood out to you in regards to the weekend?
I always find Okada matches really interesting.
Okay,
Um, he's incredible to watch. In my opinion, I know Will Ospreay is great, and I'm a huge Kenny Omega fan, but Okada is to me the most dependable big match wrestler. They're always great.
sure.
But when I do these statistics, it's always really interesting. He rarely ever hits like these huge numbers. In fact, he's usually outdone by his opponent.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah, and so like against so Naito won the match, so it does make sense that he got most of the offense. But even against Kota Ibushi kind of dwarfed him in some aspects of the match. Got 10% more of the offense. But Okada seems to be just when he hits the Rainmaker, he will always win. And it's interesting that that's how they book him. He rarely dominates a match by the numbers,
mm-hmm.
but he wins regardless. It's that kind of resilient babyface. Although he always hits loads of Rainmakers, so I suppose the statistical story you could tell there would be that his move is the most efficient. It's a quick strike
Right.
kind of knockout win.
Well, there you go. Are there any matches or competitors that really like stood out to you? Could be like a match or just one individual. It's themselves during the weekend. That you're like, whoa, okay, this is of note, basically.
Um, so it's hard. Not statistically, but for me, the two really stood out was the way that Kota Ibushi performed in that motionless, almost I don't know, describe it, motionless robot.
I think for you,
Yeah, I've heard that somewhere else as well. It's
yeah.
it's interesting, but yeah, he kind of went a bit strike crazy, and he got a huge amount.
Well, I'm
Sort of check it 76 strikes in that match versus Okada eventually.
right,
So that yeah, stuck out.
and I'm looking at your stats from the match against Jay White, and he had 11 strike downs on White.
Yeah, yeah. So it's that they're really pushing that striking. When he goes kind of blank and just starts knocking people down, basically.
And what surprised you as far as Wrestle Kingdom goes? Again, are there stats where you're like, oh, this is really interesting. This is very surprising. I know we talked about Okada,
Uh-huh.
where you already established like he doesn't get the big numbers, but he gets the big wins.
Yes.
And over the weekend, is there anything that stood out to you as well, that just surprised you?
The Zack Sabre Jr. Sonata match statistics are fascinating. It really highlights the massively different match that they put on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in that match, there was the tide changed in that match by them exchanging strikes or them reversing more times than they actually hit offensive moves, which
Okay.
is a statistical anomaly that I haven't seen that before. So, for example, in the whole 12 and a half minutes that match went on for, there was only 1 minute in total, 1.5 minutes in total of that match that I was able to say somebody was in control. The rest of the time, it was just ping ponging back and forth between the two of them.
Right. You can tell it right here, like in the time and control. You calculated 11 minutes and 11 seconds as just a neutral territory, which is absolutely fascinating. But it does tell the story of the match.
Yeah, because it was, it spun around the whole time. Nobody really.
Craig, I want to thank you again for taking some time to come and join me here today, talk about your stuff. Let everyone know where they can find Pro Wrestling Musings everywhere on the internet, because I do believe you are required reading going forward here.
Thanks, that's very kind of you. I've set up a website, very handily, called prowrestlingmusings.com. There's also Twitter. You type in Pro Wrestling Musings, I would imagine it would come up, or PW Musings is the @ for Twitter.
There you go. Craig Leask, thank you again for joining me. It was a pleasure talking to you, and hope we get a chance to talk again sometime soon.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me.
That was my interview with Craig Leask of PW Musings. I was reading the chat thread. I didn't go away. I was right here. Don't worry, I didn't go off and to the convenience store. I was reading the chat, and I'm glad that a lot of you got excited about it, how this all comes together, and it is really, really fascinating. Craig, like he said at first, he basically has shorthand established where he just takes notes and then sort of takes this arcane shorthand that he's developed and then creates these maps here. It's bananas. I don't understand exactly how he does it. It's not my place to question the work of the great old ones. I'm going to leave him keep doing this, and it's really, really, really interesting. So please do me a favor. Go follow him on Twitter. Go check out his website. There's so much great stuff. Great breakdown of Wrestle Kingdom this weekend, and I can't thank Craig enough to have come on and chatted with me as well. And like Slam Hub Wrestling asked in the chat, are there any stats on how many times Ibushi landed on his head? Craig, if you're listening, that's something you have to start compiling, my friend. This is what the fans need to know. It is required. So we are going to wrap it up for this edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I want to thank everyone for coming in, joining us live here this evening. I really, really do appreciate it. Remember, over on Patreon in just a couple of minutes, patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes. I'm going to start the post stream. We're going to be talking about wrestling show predictions for the weekend. I'm going to talk about legends appearing right and left in all sorts of wrestling promotions. It's going to be a good time. Join. You have time before we set up. You can head on over and support the Mr. Warren Hayes Show on the Power Pal level to get access to the post stream. It's a good time. I take my hat off. So there we go. We're good. That's it for this week, folks. Remember to come join me as well on Sunday. For the Wrestling Wishes and Dreams 2020 panel discussion with JPQ of the No Particular Podcast, Kristen Ashley of BuiltToBells.com, and Joe Anthony Myrick of the Daily DDT and Daily DDT Podcast. It's going to be a good time. Surprise appearance is going to be wacky, nutball, crazy. Thank you all very much for joining me.